What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I did want to go over another thing I would say has probably been a big topic on this game since it has came out. That is going to come down to the PvP in Motorfest and how can it be changed to at least be better or maybe accommodate a lot more players in it. Now we do know currently in this game there's basically only going to be the summit, which technically is not going to be PvP, but it is part of that at least in the main stage. And then of course we also have the grand race itself. And then finally the Demolition Royale. Now the one issue with this though is the fact that there's only going to be two main game modes you can do PvP in. And I would say a lot more players are most likely looking for a lot more when it does come to this. Now one of the things I was thinking about though is yes, we do have a grand race, which by the way is cross-platform. I would like to know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Do you think the cross-platform should be an option you can turn on or off? Like, would you like to have the option to at least only play with Xbox or even PC or maybe even just PlayStation for that matter? I would say at least having the option is probably going to be the best way to do it. Let's be honest, if they do include like the option to do something, it's probably better than not having it, so who knows, maybe that might end up being a thing in the future, but the big thing I am thinking about here though is what are the biggest changes that PvP does need right now, or at least in the future of this game to at least make it more popular. Now, one thing I do want to go over is going to be one of my favorite racing games ever with the PvP, which of course I have no footage of because I have not played the game in legit like 9 years. That is going to be Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012, which I would say in a lot of ways that game's probably going to have a lot of like, I guess, hate and like weird opinions about how that game was designed, which by the way I can't agree with. But I have to admit one thing, the multiplayer in that game was so much dang fun though. And I have not had that much fun in a racing game, and I honestly do not know how long. Like, when I was racing around on there doing like random races or like jumping into random events, you would always meet so many people being in like a lobby with them. Like, that was so much fun back then. And of course, all the vehicles were going to be in different classes, so like, you could run like a street car. I think it was like an everyday car back then, or like a hypercar like a Koenigsegg, so it did have a nice mix to it. You would also do like races or like different type of like stunt type of things, so there was going to be a nice mix in there. Now, I'm sure Motorfest is probably not going to have like an open lobby type of PvP mode like that, but I would say having the option to do different events is probably going to be the best way they can design it. Now, if you are wondering what I mean by that, it is going to come down to the overall design of PvP, at least giving you the option to use any vehicle class of your liking. For example, if you are looking to do some of the playlist challenges, some of them do require different vehicles that are of course going to be in different classes, for example like a racing, a drift car, maybe even a hypercar slash even a tier 2 vehicle is going to be required to at least do most of the playlist challenges in this game, but the issue with that though is the fact that you cannot pick the car you actually want to run. I do know someone was mentioning the recent playlist, which is going to be Gymkhana Grid Masters, does have a few challenges in there where you have to use a drift car. The issue with that is a lot of the time drift events do not even show up in the grand race. Now I would like to know, what would you guys think about seeing a thing where you actually could pick any vehicle class you would like to? So for example, it's going to bring you into a different menu. You can then choose between any vehicle like a tier 1, tier 2, racing, and so on. And then of course you can actually use that car in that said event. And everybody in there in that said lobby is going to have to use that same exact vehicle class. Like, what if it was going to be similar to a system in Call of Duty to where it is going to be like a map picking system? Of course, in this game, it's going to be a race picking system, kind of the same thing, but let's just say, for example, you did end up finishing a race in a racing class vehicle. After that, you then wanted to do a hypercar event. It is going to give you the option of which class vehicle you would like to use next. And then, of course, if you were to pick that next vehicle class, which let's say is going to be maybe drift, then you would go into a lobby with everyone doing that exact same event, or even other players that are picking a drift vehicle to run. And then of course that way you can do races or even use your favorite car basically all of the time you're doing PvP. Now the issue with some of this though is that is probably going to be a very complicated system. I mean, for one, you basically have to have like an entire matchmaking system to every single class. And of course you also have to have servers that can, accommodate all of it. But I really do feel like a system like that would be so dang popular in basically every single way. Like, pretty much everybody would jump on PvP and basically be able to run any class they would like to. So then they can jump in and do like a bunch of different races with other people in that said class only. and at least they are going to have the option to actually do that. But of course, right now you do not have the option to pick any vehicle you would like to, and it is only going to basically be random or like, a set thing you can do right now. Now, I do want to mention, by the way, you can turn off the cross-platform in the settings if you do not want it. That way you can run like grand races with only your platform you are on. Of course, the matchmaking is probably going to take twice as long if you do that. At least let me know in the comments below if it is going to be much worse with the cross-platform being on or off. I'm honestly not sure because I have left it on the entire time I've been on this game. Now, I would say, though, the overall matchmaking system in PvP would not only make the entire game that much more lively, but it would also probably bring a lot more people into this game, not only competitively, but also a lot more players that do love to race against other people online. And I would say it would probably be one of the best online racing experiences ever. Like, for example, if we look back to Need for Speed Unbound, I was not the biggest fan of that multiplayer, plus making money on that was a nightmare. So imagine having like an entire PvP system to where you can basically run any vehicle class of your liking. You can also run your favorite car basically the entire time you actually do PvP with other people. And it would be insanely fun to like squad up with your friends and only race like a class you would like to. I would say so many people would probably enjoy that and most likely jump in insanely quick. And a lot of players who have most likely not played this game that much because of only having a grand race. I really do feel like a lot of those players are most likely going to come back, and it would most likely bring like tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of new players in. And not only that though, you can also make a lot of money in XP and also go after a lot of different part sets, or also even go after a lot of parts to like stack them up, and of course delete them for like spare parts in the future. So either way, I really do feel like this is going to be a huge win. The biggest question is when is something like this going to happen in the Crew Motorfest? Like, is it going to be soon, or are we going to see something like this in like Season 4? I would say, I hate to say this, guys, it is probably going to be a while, but I'm also going to be optimistic that changes are going to happen with the overall PvP system in this game, and I would say something like the Grand Race and the Demolition Royale is most likely going to be, I guess you could say, like a starting stone for this game, and of course it's most likely going to be a stepping stone for what they can do with it in the future. I really do feel like having a crazy PvP system like that would not only make the entire game that much better, because it's not only going to have like the entire playlist system in there for like single player, but on top of that, you're then going to have an entire PvP system to where you can use any vehicle of your choice. You're also going to enjoy it and get rewards at the same time. And then of course you also have the summit every single week you can throw on top of it. Now, I would like to know what you guys think about this entire system in the comments below. And I really do feel like the entire PvP system in this game is not only going to get better, it's most likely going to be one of the best ones we have ever seen.